The Unemployed Actress, take one. The Unemployed Actress, take two. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Unemployed Actress. I'm Lobcke, I'm her is she, and she is me. This week, once again, there isn't really an update on my acting career. I went to a casting last week that required me to have a passport, which is very exciting because that then means that there is a possibility for travel. Should I get the part? I don't know. I haven't heard anything back yet. There's a few other castings that I have to do this week and a self-tape that I have to film as well. But that is really the update on my acting career. You will see those updates in the shorts. But as for today's episode, it's not about my acting career. This week's episode, though, I'm talking about another film. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But this is a film that I saw for the first time about a decade ago. It was part of a assignment that I got for film studies, a group assignment. So I remember clear as day, myself and my two classmates, we got together at the one's house and we watched this film on a Sunday afternoon, broad daylight. We sat down to watch this film. We were entirely unprepared for this film. We didn't look it up. We didn't do any research into it. We were told we need to watch it. And we were like, cool, we're watching it on Sunday. Let's get together and watch it on Sunday. And we got together to watch it on Sunday. Wow. Wow. There's not much more than I can say about that. When I knew I wanted to talk about this film, I watched it again today for the first time in 10 years, and it is still as striking as the first time I saw it. This film sort of grabs you by the lungs and says, hold your breath as you watch. Take it all in. Take in every shot, every scene, every development of this film. Take it in. And once it's done, it sort of lets go and you're just there gasping for breath because, wow, did I really just watch what I watched? That was incredible. Incredible. And that film is Incendies. Incendies is a film about really the life of a woman who grew up in they don't really specify where. When you go through the film, a lot of it takes place in Jordan, war-torn country, in the midst of the outbreak of the civil war there, and how her life develops and how everything really how her story is told. The film starts with also it's told in French. The film starts with a brother and sister who are at the will reading of their mum's will. And you get a little bit of insight into the kind of personality that the mum was based on like the letter she writes to them and the instructions she leaves for them. And she sort of says to them that I want no fanfare at my funeral. I just want to be put in a hole. I don't want a casket. Throw me in this hole, naked, face down, with my back towards the world. Don't put on a headstone. Here is the instructions. Find your father, find your brother. Give them each a letter. Once the letters have been delivered, then a promise has been kept and a story has been told. You can then put a headstone on with my name facing the sun. And the daughter is in full shock, like a brother, a father, what? And the son's actually quite divisive because he gives us quite a bit of insight into their experience with their mother. And he sort of says, this is absolute craziness. We're not doing this. Can we do one normal thing for the first time in our lives? Why couldn't she just be normal? She's going to get a normal funeral. We're going to do this like normal people. There will not be any more craziness. And then the story sort of starts to unfold. Why this film was so incredible to me is because it really looked at the experience of children and their perspective of their parents, and then the lives their parents actually led. I remember having a discussion with my friends about if we actually knew our parents as people. Do we know them as people? Do we know their lives? Do we know like stuff they've been through? Do we know them beyond being our parent? We spoke about this because our parents were raised in the world of apartheid, in the South African apartheid regime. They experienced apartheid firsthand. So what must that have been like? What was their experiences? What did they see? What didn't they see? Like what was their world like before they became our parents? Because for me, my mom is my mom. I know her as my mom. She's amazing, and I think she is a lot of the life that she's lived, like all of us. But I find her to be truly incredible. I mean, we disagree sometimes because that's just the nature of parent-children relationships. But I don't really have any insight into who she is as a person, not my mother, just a person and the life she's led. I think I know two stories that she's told me in my life about like the more, I wouldn't say darker, just the more like apartheid involved stories, if you will. She told me about, having to be home at a certain time after school because there was a certain point when the police started patrolling, and if they caught anyone out in the streets, it was trouble. About an encounter my dad had with the police I think it was a traffic cop that had stopped him at some point, and just the racist things that they said to him. And my mum also has a younger brother who went missing decades ago. I think he was in his early 20s, who's never been seen again. And that's all. That's the only stories that I know, really, that speaks to the life she must have led. But outside of that, I just know my mom as my mom, and her cool growing up stories, the fun parts, the happy bits, but none of the more serious things, or the stuff that probably stayed with her for her lifetime. I don't know any of those stories. And I was talking to my friends about that, and they were like, come to think of it, they don't know about that either. Like, our parents just don't talk about what that was like, about what that life was like. And if you think about it, having to raise us, having to raise born frees in a world that isn't governed by apartheid structure, that now has so much open to them that wasn't open to them when they were kids, and how they navigated that world, because quite frankly, that's a new world to them too. So all of these things speak to the film speaks to that sort of experience, right? And what I love of how they told the story is the leading lady who basically plays the mum, she has her own scenes that we see her world. And then we see the kids also uncovering this story about their mums' lives. life, and how heartbreaking that is for them to find that their mother had experienced all of these things, that she'd been through all of these things, the war she'd witnessed, the atrocities she'd been a part of, the violence that she made it through. There's this beautiful shot. It's quite evocative, where the mum character in the backstory bit of the film, she is, a lot has happened and she's in this desert area and there's a burning bus behind her. It's an extreme close up of her face in silhouette, right? But in the back you see this burning bus and the flames are just engulfing this bus and the black smoke is just rising from it, and it's such an intense picture. You can almost feel the heat from it as you sit and you're watching it, and you're seeing the fire just eating away at this bus, the smoke just rising from it, her complete horror and devastation on her face. It almost just jumps right out at you. The heat of the scene, the intensity of the scene, the that shot does everything that you'd want that sort of a shot to do. It evokes so much emotion from you as the watcher, because you're just like, wow, just mind blown, if you will. And again, we're watching the main story, but we're also uncovering with the children, and that is something in itself. This film also has one of the greatest plot twist revelations, scripted line to reveal a plot twist, that I have seen in a film in a very long time. It does it so well, where literally when you grasp what is being said, it's this. I remember sitting on that couch with my classmates and I'm listening and I'm listening, and they're looking at each other like, huh? And I just went, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I remember my classmate, his name was David. He paused the film and he's like, what? And I'm just repeating the lines over to them. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, okay, fine, let's just watch. And for the next 10 minutes, it gets revealed, right? And they're like, no way, what? And even today when I watched it, I just got goosebumps all over again and again. You just hold your breath for the next 10 minutes of this film, because it's just like, I can't explain to you just the, oh my God, of it all. Oh, it's just, it's good. It's so good. You're just like, wow, to go through this experience with these kids and to see the mom's world from her experience. And her closing instruction, is, as she said in the beginning, now that everything has been tied off, now that a promise has been kept and the truth has been revealed, you can put a headstone on with my name facing the sun, and all is well, and we move on, basically. But it's such an amazing journey to go on. It's such an incredible film to bear witness to. I think sometimes, myself included, right, understanding the violence that was apartheid, understanding the society that our parents must have been a part of, living in this world of just racial injustice. I think sometimes, being of the new generation and understanding therapy and triggers, sometimes you don't ask those questions because you don't want to trigger them. You don't want to take them back to a place that was so awful. But I think there's something so incredible about understanding what happened, what life was like back then, what they made it through. Um, just to gain some insight into who these people are that we call mum and dad. Sometimes just insight into why they are the way they are, why we were raised the way we were raised, why maybe sometimes we thought things were just absolutely crazy and they were just over the top or whatever you will, just to find out that they've seen some shit, man. They've been through some things. Much like ourselves, life just happens. I think sometimes the aim of parents really oftentimes is to offer their kids a life that they didn't have, but life still happens. And I always think to myself, I'm not a parent yet, but how much of the things I've been through and the things I've seen, would I actually tell my kids, or would I also go for shielding them from that life because they don't necessarily, they won't share those experiences, so we just go for better. And this film really has that conversation, around that. Another film that sort of, I mean, it's not in the same line, right? But it's also the same story of really discovering who your parent is. Or it reminded me of that, was Pedro Almodovar's All About My Mother. And the film sort of opens with a woman who loses her son, and she goes to go find his father to tell his father what had happened. And she goes back to her hometown. But even in that, in the way the story unfolds, in the dialogue that's happening, you get to see her life. You get to meet people that she's been friends with or that she sort of left behind. There's this colorful world that she's lived in, also a world that has quite a bit of pain in it and quite a bit of hurt and atrocities, and again a whole different generation's experiences, right? But you get to see this boy's mother's life, and it gives you insight into who she was as his mother, but also who she was as a person and the things that she's seen and experienced. Really, really lovely. For me, go see Incendies. Incendies is honestly such a stunning film. It's such a beautiful film, and there's just so much to talk about once you've seen it. I think the lecturer that prescribed it, is prescribed the right word, assigned it to us. Yeah, big ups to him. I think when you're early 20s, you don't really see how cool your lecturers are. But he was a pretty cool guy. I think he's a pretty cool guy right now as well. But yeah, that film was and is insanely beautiful. It discusses so many different themes: love, hate, grief, trauma, just so much trauma, God. And society, really, a bit of religion. It's a whole lot. There's a whole lot of themes going on in there, but it's a really stunning watch. It's a really, really stunning watch. 2 hours and 10 minutes, but worth the watch. Yeah, 100% worth the watch. It's thought invoking. It just opens space for dialogue, really. It opens space for dialogue. It sort of reminds us that I mean, we love to say history repeats itself, right? And it truly does. But there's also so much to be learned if we ask, if we speak, if we're in conversation, if we talk about the atrocities that happen, if we're vocal about what's happening and what happened, what the world looks like right now and what the world looked like then. I think that's very important conversations to be had. It really is. So Incendies was a really amazing film that really spoke to that. I think All About My Mother is it's a lighter one. It's not as heavy, but that too is a really good watch. It's a really, really good watch. And you get to see Pedro Almodovar's love for red. I don't know what it is about him and red. I haven't actually looked into that, but a lot of his films have a strong red in every scene. If it's not the walls, it's the cupboard, it's the leading lady's lipstick, it's her clothes, it's seeped in red. I watched Parallel Mothers the other day. It had the same sort of a red going on. Yeah. I'm going off topic, but honestly, Incendies. Watch Incendies. It's good. It's good, and there's so much to be gained from it. And if you're not watching it for anything, watch it for the plot twist. Watch it for the reveal at the end. Stunning. That's the long and the short of it. There isn't really much that I'm talking about this week, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like I said, in the acting world right now, for me, nothing is really happening. It's still just going to castings, making sure that I'm prepped and ready to go whenever I get the casting brief. But I will always return to talk about films that either have impacted me in some way or just brought up some kind of something that I want to talk about. That's the point of a podcast, isn't it? You come and you talk about something that's influenced you in one way or another. And this is definitely one of those films that have stuck with me for over a decade now. And being able to watch it today and still experiencing that same still having that same cinematic experience and experiencing that same intensity when watching it, still walking away from the film going, wow, that was a great film. Oh, that was a great film. Yeah, so that's that. Watch Incendies. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of The Unemployed Actress. Again, we didn't get to speak about my acting career, but that's not the point. We spoke about a film that I really feel like you should see. Again, as things unfold, I will come back right here to update you on everything that happens in the acting world and me in the acting world. If nothing happens, we're going to talk about my favorite films. Like, why not? Because if I love it, I feel like you should see it. And if you've seen it, let's talk about it. That being said, like, subscribe, comment, do all the necessary things, share it with people. One thing about film that's really so incredible is it's meant to be shared. It's an experience for everybody. So if you watch Incendies and you think it's great, share. Plug someone to watch Incendies, but also share this video and be like, the person who plugged me is her and she said watch the film, so you go watch the film. Do that, please. That being said, have an amazing week further. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing. Watch a good film, recommend a good film to me. If you've seen one that you're like, I don't think she's seen this, or if she has, I'd really like to hear her talk about it. Comment below, tell me these things, plug me on them. I want to know, I want to see, I want to watch, I want to talk. So let's go. Have a fantastic week. Thank you for coming back week on week. I really appreciate you guys. See you next week.